G.E.M Academy Membership Hub is officially reopening its doors. G.E.M is the Global Empowerment Movement Academy for women who want to inspire and create influence and impact in their communities and globally. So if you are a woman who wants to create a better lifestyle for yourself and your family, and you may even have a side hustle and want to make more money while you sleep, this is the network for you. We're giving an opportunity for 5 women who are bold, who are brave and have a vision and are ready to up-level and elevate and excel in their business. At G.E.M, you will create, build and grow within a sisterhood of like-minded women on the rise. So, do yourself a favour today. Join G.E.M without delay. Hey guys, how are you doing? Good evening. Yes, I do. I noticed, disclaimer, I do have on clothes. Okay, so how are we doing tonight? Tell me who's here, who is here. Let me know who is here with me tonight. I am looking forward to tonight's conversation. I hope that you are well. Let me just make sure that everybody can see what's going on. Yes, let's just make sure that we are firing on all cylinders tonight. Here we go. Let me just put that in that. And I shall share that. Guys, take this moment to share this with your peoples then. Please, take this moment to share this. Okay, share. Okay, let me just share it to some of my groups. And I think that is it. Oh, and there's that one. Okay, cool. So we've done the admin. Good evening. How are you doing? Okay, so what I am going to do this evening is we do have a guest coming in. Theo's going to come in tonight, but I am going to do this on here so that if you do want to come in, you can. Right, so tonight. Good evening to everybody that is joining us this evening. I wish you well. For those of you who were here yesterday, I want to thank you again for your support. I'm glad you was here. I only need to put this on when I'm reading. Okay, so tonight's show, functional family versus dysfunctional. Now we are going into a series about the family. This is really close to my heart. I know that I do lots of other things and I have lots of speakers on and I do all of that stuff, and we will get speakers on as we go along. But this is the introduction, and I think from yesterday, even from last week really, when we were talking about Will Smith and Jada and Chris Rock in terms of the dynamics and what happened and why and all of those things. You know, Will and Jada are a family. They are a husband and wife, and looking at the dynamics of what's going on and how trauma really affects the family. And then yesterday speaking and disclosing that, I have somebody that's stalking me, and I know who the person is because the family person is deemed as a family member. Yeah, not actually a family member, but it's deemed as a family member, right? So, Lord, I got something in my eye. It's more than my eyeball. Something's really bothering me. Anyway, there we go. I'm back. So tonight, in light of what we were talking about yesterday, I want to take the conversation deeper. I wanted to take it because one of the things that we spoke about yesterday was the fact that our community tends to, not all the time, but tends to, and it has, I suppose, got a little bit better over time, but the community tend to sweep things under the carpet. So tonight we want to lift the carpet up. At the end of yesterday's conversation, I spoke about having this dream, this vision like dream. And I was in a place, lots of people around, but in the middle, it felt like it was a church that, like, like they got the aisle down the church, but the piece of carpet had a big, like, lump in it. And it was like, to give you the description of the whole dream, it was like people were trying to stamp on it to flatten it. But what happened is every time someone walked on it, they'd trip over. Okay, so I came to this in this dream, I came to this carpet, but when I looked underneath, there were like it looked like dolls, like Barbie, like Cindy, like Ken. Back in the day, those of you who've got a little piece of age upon you will understand what I'm talking about. And those kind of little dolls, I wish I had one to show you, but you could pop the head out, pop the arms out, and the legs out of the socket. And in this, underneath this carpet, there's all these different body parts. It seemed the torso was there, the legs, but there was lots of torsos, there was lots of legs, there were lots of arms, there were lots of heads, there was lots of rubbish and dust under it. And this was the dream. And I never understood what that dream was because that was years ago. I never really understood what that dream meant until like now, right? Because what I believe it means, it is about us. It's about us as a people, us as a community. And we are always saying that it takes a village to raise a child, but the village is broken. And so this is why today I want to address this today. The village is broken. And how are we going to fix this? How are we going to fix it? Because there's so many hurt and broken people. And we have to take some responsibility for that in itself. We have to take responsibility for our family members. And I remember yesterday, really brave, and I really respect Carl for sharing a little bit of his story yesterday. I know that it's difficult for a lot of men to talk about how they feel or share in their abuse that they suffered. And I have to applaud any man. And the reason why is because I suppose because we as women, we're used to talking, it seems easier for us. It's not easy. It's never easy. It takes a person to be very brave to talk out and say what's happened to them. But I especially want to thank Carl for saying what he said yesterday as a man and being open with us on this forum to say, yeah, this is what's happened to me. And as a result of speaking out, he was shut down. He was ostracized. And this, again, we lift up the carpet there in the body parts, because what happens is, and as I explained last night, what happens is as children, yeah, we can only deal with what we can deal with. We don't have the full understanding. But what happens is the child part of you continues to go with you, walk with you throughout your life. And so when we have these issues that are not dealt with and they are swept under the carpet, every so often something may trigger us, and then the child reappears and the child is in control. So sometimes you see people acting out. For instance, again, let's just quickly go back to last week's show, and I mentioned Will Smith. When Will Smith hit Chris Rock, he was displaying an action that he would have done or wanted to do as a child. That was his child, the child in him. That was the display. That was what it was, and that's why you saw that display. It was very childish. Even the shouting out was very, very childish. It's not something that you would consider an adult that's in control would do. So we're looking now at the family, and we're looking at the dynamics of how that works. Dysfunction versus function. How many of you come from a dysfunctional family? That you, in your opinion, no one else's, your opinion, how many of you watching are from a dysfunctional family? And I would just like you to put a 1 on the chat. No one is going to judge you. No one is going to say anything to you, because this is just us having a conversation about how things affect us, how things affect you, how, if you knew that there was abuse in your family, if your father was hitting your mother, or if your mother was verbally abusive to you or to the partner, then that function, or is that dysfunction? And I'm gonna, I want us to really go deep in conversation. My dad was a gambler. So I'm saying this openly. He was a gambler. And so, you know, him taking the money that supported the family, would that cause arguments? It probably did. I never recalled my parents having an argument, but what I do recall is going without. Why? Because there was no money. So is that functional, or is that dysfunctional? So there are lots and lots, and I use that as one example, and then like the screaming and the shouting as another, two separate things. But which one is functional or which is dysfunctional, or are they both dysfunctional? Right? So I want to, before we even get into conversation, I want to say good evening to everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here this evening. And Carla said, number one, Carl, thank you for your honesty. And I'm glad to see you back here this evening. Thank you so much for, as I said, I don't know if you heard, for what you contributed to yesterday's show. And as a result of that, we're doing this show, because the show I had planned was different. And so as I just want to thank you. So was my dad, and that was the reason why your parents divorced. Right, right. You're locked in. Dee Dee, hi Dee Dee, how are you doing? So we're talking about functional to dysfunctional families. And we're going to try and find a solution to whatever comes up today. There's no structure of the show as such today, because I want it to just be open. I want us to be able to just talk and be honest, be open, and really find the solutions to what we are going through. Yeah, and I know that I like to say we're all in the same storm, but our boats are completely different, and they may be going in different directions. And this is where we're at today. Right, so Dee Dee said it's simply divine. Hi, darling, how are you? Thank you for being here. Right, so Dorota says, I've experienced both functional aspects of family and also witnessed my parents' dysfunctional marriage with a lot of conflict, sadness, and anger. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. So my question to you then is, what impact did that have on you? And how has it impacted you today? So we know that there's an impact from previous, and there's an impact for today, and there's also an impact for present. But we have to put some markers in place, so that we don't take the negative into the present. Right. And Carl's saying, thank you for your honesty too, Yvonne. You have been so brave to host this forum and open up about what you've been through. Thank you so much. I thank you for the support. And sometimes, we don't know why we end up saying things. As I didn't plan to say half the things I said yesterday, but it's what needed to be said. And so because of that, and because I know that others on the platform have been abused, I know that we need to open up this conversation. And sometimes it isn't about our agenda as a person. Sometimes it's not about my agenda. There is a bigger, wider, deeper agenda that's bigger than all of us. And I like to flow in that. I know that, everybody wants to have things, we're doing this show, we're having this guest. But actually, for me, I have to go with the energy. I have to go with what, the aura that's around me. And if it's saying to me, deal with this, then we've got to deal with it. And as uncomfortable as it is, I know that moving forward over the next few weeks, we're going to have some really uncomfortable conversations. And if it makes you run away, it makes you run away. It means you're not ready for it. But if you embrace it, I'm sure that you're going to grow from it. So I want to thank everyone for being here. So I'm going to bring in my guest. No
Okay.
other than no other than Thea. Hi Thea, how you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thank you. So when you was in the green room, you could hear what I was. I'm sure you could hear what I was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
saying
heard
about.
everything.
So tonight, yesterday, because he wasn't around yesterday, you didn't see the. I don't know if
No,
you got
no,
to watch
no,
the
I didn't
show,
see
but
it. No.
basically, last night I was talking about the stalker. I was talking about um, the whole picture. I was giving everyone the whole picture that the stalker is the brother of the person who sexually abused me as a child. And so
Mm,
this whole thing is, and it's brought up lots and lots of different emotions, lots of different feelings for me, especially. And I find myself in a struggle. It's a whole big struggle because the memories of the past are coming up while I'm dealing with my present, trying to move into my future. And the past, it was dealt with, but now this has happened. I'm having to revisit some of the things that went on through in the past. And what I was saying is um, the function of the family, how these things impact the family. And we've been talking about doing a series on the family. So tonight it's about the functional family versus the dysfunctional family and how we can kind of try and bring about some kind of peace. Yesterday, I always also want to talk about what I want to mention about yesterday is some elements about the church came up yesterday as well in terms of the abuse, because the person who abused me is a minister in the church.
I
Right?
knew you're gonna say that. I had a feeling
Yeah.
you're gonna say something.
So, so it came up in it as well. So, and I was open and honest and said that's one of the reasons why I stopped going to church. And not because I don't believe in God, because I still have my faith, but because I couldn't be in an organization that would,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, uphold this kind of stuff. So I walked away from that and I do what I do. And I do it here. And you still see me singing gospel songs, you still see me doing what I do.
yeah. It's in
But
your blood, isn't it?
yeah, that's the reason why. So moving forward with the show, I want to talk about. We're talking about you know when we see our parents, like some of us, and Carl spoke out yesterday, which I'm really proud of him for doing so, about his parents and how they were, and how that has impacted. That's caused an impact for him within his family, ostracized for speaking his truth. You mustn't talk about family business, and what we tend to do, our community, is sweep things under the carpet. So tonight we're
Mm,
lifting up the carpet. What's under the carpet?
yeah,
That's what we want to know.
best thing to do.
Yeah. So I said we're going to be having some real uncomfortable conversations in the next week, but in the hope not to tear us down, but to build us up, to
Yeah.
bring solution. And that's what this show is about. It's all about solution. So, right. So, you've got mum, you've got dad, you've got the children, you've got mum and dad screaming at each other for whatever reason. Maybe, and I mentioned that my dad was a gambler, so that, as much as I didn't see mum and dad argue, there were issues within the household because there was no money, because the money was gambled, and so these are the things which build up resentment. And I think that a lot of us have resentment. Oh, he's gone. A lot of us have resentment over these things, and I want us to really, really talk about it. Right. So before I go into it, coming from far, my eyes are open to a lot of things: fighting, cussing, drinking, gambling, cheating, and the list goes on. Was all normal and part of life growing up in Jamaica. To me, it was normal until I came to foreign, which means England. Do you know what? I'm gonna hi Ibe and hi Joanne. How you doing, darling? I hope you're okay. I'm sending you especially much love, Joanne. I don't know if you've got my messages, but okay, let's start here with what Shell has said, because this today I had a conversation, and what it was said was what I was told was part of the show yesterday. Let me just go there. There was a part in the show where we were talking about when a child is being abused and the child goes to the parent or the mother. And today, what was said was to me was that mothers should be put in prison for like 6 months for that. And so I don't know how you feel about that comment, right? But there was a lengthy conversation after that comment. How do you feel? How do you feel when you women on here and gentlemen, how do you feel if that was to be the case? Do you think that that's right? Do you think that that statement's right? That women should take the brunt of the responsibility, and if their child is molested or sexually abused, the mother should be put in prison for the minimum of 6 months. Do you think that that is reasonable? Please do answer on this chat, because this is not a monologue, it is a dialogue, and I do want you guys to talk back to me. All right, so let's have a look and see what's coming up on the chat. All right, so let me know what you think, because how I see it, and I'll just keep talking until you guys start to answer back. Think about it. Think about it as a parent. As a parent, should mothers be, and your child has been abused, should the mother be put in prison for 6 months? Do you think that's reasonable? So Sky Hair saying it depends on how she responds after being told. Okay, thank you for that. Thanks, Sky. Carl is saying no mothers shouldn't be locked up unless they allowed it to continue once they knew about it. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you very much. If she knew, then yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you for those comments. Thank you so much. My answer to that question was, I actually got very annoyed with the person and really went into one. And the reason why I went into one is that there's significant what's the word I'm looking for, evidence that when a mother is especially within the Black community, I can't talk for any other community, right? I can only talk for my own. A lot of the mothers who back in the day, because another thing that the person said is they would like to speak to the 70-year-olds and the 90, 80-year-olds to find out why that this thing was, they would allow their child to be abused and then that it's swept under the carpet. And my answer to that was, it was a different time. And as Shell said, everything that we were talking about was normal. That was normalized in the Caribbean, in Africa. It was normalized. But when we came here and life more European, our parents had to look at life differently, and they had to look at things completely different to what they were used to. They weren't used to the culture that is here. And so my thing is that it's not that the mother should be blamed. It's not that the mother, and this isn't whether she knew or not. This is if a child has been abused. It's not whether she knew or not. Is if your child has been abused, the person was saying they should go to prison, right? My thing is that in most case scenarios, the woman who may have been told about the child being abused may not have taken it to the authorities because she herself was abused. She herself, it was just said, okay, and that was swept under the carpet. So it's a thing that, it's a habit that has been formed, not because They wanted it to, but because they didn't know any better. We now, I said that what will change that is education. Coming to this country and seeing things done in a different way, the laws in which they have here, which are different to some other countries, makes you think differently. And it's a mindset. And so, what other things, we know that people are abused. I was abused as a child. I was abused when I was 11 years old. Just after my mum died, that's when my abuse started. And so if I told Dad, would he have listened? I don't know, because I didn't tell him. But the likelihood is, from that generation, it would have been shut down. And that's the likelihood. And the thing is, do we blame our parents for it? Do we blame them? Do we hate them? Do we dishonor them? Do we cuss them out? Do we show them, no, you're wrong? What do you do? What do you do? We have to fix our families. Our families, our culture has been broken. And we have to understand that. And this is what I said to the young man I was talking to. Our culture has been broken. And he said, well, I don't know about the culture. I only know about this country. And I said, learn. Learn about the culture. Learn about where we're coming from. Right? Learn about, Tony, go up on the chat. Hold on, I'm going to give you this. Because I think you want to be involved in this. Right? There you go. Our culture, right? Joanna's saying, oh, hold on. Joanna's saying our culture hasn't been broken, it's been shattered. Absolutely. I agree. Right? The thing is, with our culture, in the way I'm talking about, I'm not just talking about how we like music and how I'm talking about the whole picture of how we are, how we distrust each other, how we can really see somebody doing excellent, and rather than big them up and help them, we would rather tear them down. It's innate in us. It's innate. Why is that? It's because as a culture, the things that we endured have broken us. And it's gone through generation to generation to generation. Right? So this is the issue. And it is worse for the Caribbeans. I think Tony's saying Black African is way different to Black Caribbean. Absolutely. It absolutely is different. And I'm talking from I'm not African. Do you know what I mean? Well, I am of an African descent, but my parents are from the Caribbean. And so that way of upbringing is completely different. And so these are the issues why we have functional families and we have dysfunctional families. Or we may just have dysfunctional families, because what is a functional family? What does that look like? What does it look like to you? Dorota said earlier on that she has had, let me see, she has experienced both functional aspects of family and also witnessed a dysfunctional marriage, with the conflict and sadness and anger of the marriage of her parents. So I'm asking the question, what does that look like to you? And please put this on the chat. Chat with me, talk to me, because at the end of the day, we want to create solution here. We want to talk the truth. We want to talk the truth. We want to ignite each other and lift each other up. So Joanna, right. So Gloria Miller saying African isn't a race, but that's like tomato. Do you know what I mean? Is it even worth saying that? Africa is a continent. There's lots of different African nations within that do things differently. None are the same, or maybe some are the same and some are different. Do you know what I mean? So that's my comment there. The Africans know how to unite, Caribbeans don't. I think to a degree. I don't even think because Africa's massive, and it depends on what part of Africa you're talking about. Because there's wars all the time. Do you see what I'm saying? So, but again, I agree with Tony. Education is the key, and this is what I said earlier on today when I had this conversation. It is about education, but what narrative are we using when we're educating? Because we need to break this right down. Yeah, absolutely. Again, with Tony, not all Africans unite. And this is us as a people, because there is a divide as well between the Caribbeans and the Africans as well, and we are all black melanin people. So how do we bring functionality into our homes, into our families, to our children? How do we up level now? How do we do that? What do we need to do? I think first of all we need to be honest. We need to be honest with each other. I think Theo's back. So let's see if we can bring him on. Hello.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Everything problems.
You having internet problems?
Yeah, my laptop's moving real slow, so it's all good. Hopefully, should be okay now. I've moved spots, so yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard the conversation, but
I was listening. I was listening via my phone, so yeah.
Okay. Right. So, hold on. Oh, I stated a fact, and you shot it down, and then you stressed the importance of education. The ontological relations of man are Caucasians on. Yeah, but the thing is, if we're going into that, I'm not shooting it down, but what I'm trying to do is keep it on topic. Yeah. And that takes it away from what we are trying to discuss here, Gloria. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that we want to talk about the issues. Yeah. And yes, we do. The importance of education is, but that part is not really relevant as far as I'm concerned to the conversation that we're having now. That's all I'm saying. So this is about us bringing. Oh, Tony, I just see your last comment. Anyway, right. So to get back to what we were talking about, we're talking about the dysfunctional families, dysfunction versus functional. What causes dysfunctional? We're clear that the African side of our ethnicity is different from the Caribbean side of our ethnicity. And as I said, because I made the statement, I'm not African, but I am of African descent, but my parents are from the Caribbean. So that is going to have a massive impact on how I deal with things, how I think about things, and all of that, because of the environment in which I grew up in. And that's clear for everybody. Everybody is a part of their environment first. That's who we are. And then everything else comes in, the culture and all of that stuff. And culture is part of our environment, right? So my thing is, yeah, that we are a people who are struggling. We are a people, whether we are African or whether we are Caribbean. The Africans do things differently. Yes, we've established that. But as Caribbeans, we do things differently. And lots of things have happened. We spoke yesterday and we identified abuse in the family and how that changes the family dynamic. So what we want to do is bring about change. What we want to do is bring about a conversation that we want to bring about a conversation that we can all have and all be instrumental in to bring about fundamental change to our lives. And we have to do that segment by segment. So, Theo.
Yes.
So in your, because we all have different situations and circumstances when we're growing up.
Yeah.
So what was your upbringing like in terms of functional or dysfunctional to you from your experience?
Well, I was fortunate to be in the Caribbean for the first part of my life. So even though I was born here, I went there as a baby. So I spent the first, I'll say, 7, 8 years of my life there. So I was raised by my gran and my uncle. So that was freedom, isn't it? So there was no sisters, no siblings, no anybody else, no anybody else. It was freedom. When I came here, my two sisters and my stepdad, but that was cool. My stepdad, Rastaman, and stuff like that. But it wasn't. I didn't really have dysfunction in my family. We was a, church. That was it, pretty much for me. As church was about the only thing I knew. In the Caribbean and coming here. So, and in terms of family dynamics, we all kind of get on. We all kind of get on in terms of a family. We don't really have much. We kind of accept everybody for who they are and how they are. So we do have issues in our family, but nothing dramatic or tragic or drastic that we can say, unless there's things that's happened that I'm not aware of. Yeah. So some things have come out, like my sister's dad not being my dad, and that was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that was a shock. But that came out much later on, when it was like in her teens. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But that's about really, really about it in terms of toxicity in our family and stuff like that. And that wasn't even a toxic situation. It was like, okay, because we're kind of a family that things happen, we kind of just keep it moving. Okay, it's happened, can't change it. Let's deal with it and move on.
So you'd say your family's more like a functional family then, really?
Yeah, if that's what people,
it sounds functional.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because I never really thought about the family dynamics until you just put it, asked me, and I'm like, are we functioning? I suppose we are.
And that's a good thing. That is a good thing to kind of look and think, okay, this is my family, this is how we deal with it. And so we can come to you and say, okay, Sophia, this is a scenario, la 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 la, but this is the scenario that we have, because I can honestly say that my family is a dysfunctional family. It's dysfunctional. But one of the things that you highlighted very early on when you were talking is that you accept each other for who you are.
Yeah.
And that is a key, I think, is a principle that we have to kind of work with. Now, earlier on, I said there seems to be a lot of jealousy within families that I come across. And this is from
True.
conversations that I've had.
Yeah.
It's not just a throwaway statement. This is conversations that I've had with women who are in my network, with men that I know, that there seems to be a lot of jealousy. But you're saying your family were able to accept each other for who they are. And so, my question is, how do we, get over the jealousy one? How do we, I think Carl asked a question yesterday, should we forgive? When things go wrong and the person who's wronged you comes to you and asks for forgiveness, should we give them the time to and forgive?
Yeah. We should. Yeah, simple as that. We should. Because if you don't forgive, that person will move. That person asks for forgiveness, and you're still holding on. So you're never gonna get past that situation. That's gonna always hurt. You're not saying you're gonna forget. Forgiveness doesn't mean forget. It just means you've forgiven them for their actions, whatever they've done, because it's gonna help you to heal. So if you want to heal and move on, you have to give them some sort of forgiveness, else you're gonna always be angry.
That's very true. You will. I think what you're saying is very, very true. But we have, people who believe that forgiveness is about the other person, which is, we discussed this last night, so we don't have to
Mm.
go over it. But there are people who would say um, that that was, that person, they've done it, you shouldn't forgive, blah blah blah. But yesterday, as I said, forgiveness is about yourself.
Yeah.
It's about yourself first and foremost. Um, so just talking about that, Tony Cox says jealousy is born of ego, out of ego. Ego is the number one problem in the world, in my humble opinion. Um, I think Tony's in my head, and for the first time, actually, this is the second week running that.
Second week.
What's going on?
It's a new season.
Seasons have changed, Tony. Because a
But
lot of there's some things that Tony said
so
that I do agree with, and that is one of the fundamental things I do agree with, is that there is a lot of ego.
yeah,
There is a
yeah.
lot of ego around, and but our parents may not have seen it or known it to be ego.
That you got to look back in the tape. We are of a different mindset to our parents.
Yeah.
We've grown up differently. We're more family orientated, aware of self, and whole variety of things. We have people who are experts in different fields. And as you said, I think earlier, you said about, we've come to this country and we've seen different, how family dynamics are different. And, it's more, you have to be involved with your family. If you go back home, as a child, like me growing up, I went to school by myself.
Mm-hmm.
From the age of 3, 4, I was going to school by myself with my friends. There wasn't no taking me to school and picking me up like we do here. And there wasn't taking me to the park or doing all these things that we do when we're here. So the family dynamics changes because that's not how we grow in the Caribbean or even Africa or some of the Middle East countries. The children get on with it themselves. We kind of self-parent.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've come here now and parents don't understand certain things about jealousy and ego, because when they were younger, there was no time to be jealous. And if you were jealous, who cared? No one cares. You just have to get on with it. If you didn't like your brother, you didn't like your brother, but he's your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to get on with it. But so what we've learned is that we've come up now, we've come in a custom where we've all got our own voice and our voice needs to be heard. And this one is getting special treatment and I don't like that. And as we get older, we kind of grow up resentments against our family members for no reason really, apart from, as Tony said, for our own ego, because end of the day, most of us getting the same treatment. We eating the same food. We're in the same household. Okay, some might get special treatment because the mom or the dad's favorite, but get over yourself, man. You're growing up now.
The unfortunate thing is in that grown-up person is still that little child.
That child, yeah. That's still that child.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have to let go of that child.
So that's very true. But
They have to
how
let go of the child
without even knowing that it's the child in control? And at the very beginning of the show, I did use the last week's show.
Yeah.
This rock situation to show how Will Smith was in his childhood state when he did that.
Someone posted something about we need to work on ourselves. A lot of people don't work on themselves. They don't get into the deep. We kind of deal with the, like the tree, we kind of prune the edges, but we don't want to go too deep because it's going to hurt. And we don't want to relive those memories and open that box that we've sealed and buried. And as you said, we don't want to lift the carpet on our truth.
Yeah.
So every now and then something seeps out from underneath the carpet. One of the bugs or one of the fruits seep out from underneath the carpet and it manifests itself. Like obviously Will Smith's still got his childhood hurts and fears bottled up inside of him. So, but we have to just deal with it. You have to kind of just deal with it. You can't bottle things up and push it to the side and say, I'm going to forget about it, because it will rear its head.
And then it then falls onto the next generation because you haven't dealt with it. And this is where we're at now. This is, we can go way back, or we can start with the here and now. We can start with ourselves. We can start with taking responsibility for how we think, what we do, how we show up, how we play things out, so that our children can see a different narrative to what we saw as when we were growing up. So Shell has said, right, and I think this is a continuation from last night, because Shell was on the show last night, and again, thank you, Shell, for being so open with your experiences as well. And she said one of the same person who molested me had also molested my mother and my sister. Because earlier on we were talking, I asked a question in terms of who should a woman be put in prison if she's told or finds out that her child has been abused. And that stemmed from a conversation earlier on today. When I finally told my mother, which was in 2012, the pain in her eyes made me want to protect her. Living in the UK opened my eyes to see how my childhood was. Right, I'm going to leave out this cussing. A matter of fact, I didn't have a childhood, so I accepted that I'm a wonderful individual. most of my family hate my ass because of that, and the rest don't like my ass. So that's why I do funeral plans, so none of them have to bury
Oh, sure.
my ass when I
Oh,
die.
sure.
You
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Shell, we love you. We
Yeah.
love you. Right, okay, so here is a classic. Here is a classic case here of the family breakdown. Is it okay to say that, Shell? The family
Yeah.
breakdown and not feeling accepted by your own. And this is what we really wanted to talk about. How do we change this? How do we start to love each other? I know that Tony's mentioned something about misogyny and blah blah blah. Tony put a fork in that for me, and we will bring that in either next week or the week after. Just hold that thought for me, and we will talk about that, because that's a whole subject on its own. All right, so we've got this. We've got Shell here who's saying, she was molested. Her mother and her sister and herself was molested by the same person. And then, she said the pain in her mother's eyes, she just wanted to protect her mum. But what was said to me today is that mother should have gone to prison. But like I said, and it doesn't excuse the behaviour. Let me make that very, very clear. I am talking from a place of being abused at the age of 11. Yeah. So it doesn't take that away, but we have to understand why that happened. And we have to understand the mindset. As Theo said, the mindset then was very different. The mindset in Jamaica is very different to the mindset in the UK. Even to today, I would say. It's still very different. And so we have to have more of an open mind, so that we can build healthy relationships within our families, because the family is the hub, the family is the heart, the family is everything as we know it for our success. And unfortunately, our family, as Joanna said, I said our families have been broken, but she said that our families have been shattered. And some families have. And now we have the task, because we are now the elders. We have the task of rebuilding. There's so much going on around. There's crime going on. There's our children killing each other. That's going on. And so we as the elders now, we have to take position, and we have to try to solve the issues that we are going through today. And that is why I wanted to do this family series and get families on here, get us talking. If it's working for you, what are you doing that makes it work? If it's not working for you, what do I have to do to make it work for my family? And there's no shame in it, but there is a lot of pain. And we want to eradicate that pain. We want to be able to be in a position where, for instance, that, when Shell goes to meet her maker, that her family can be there, and then she don't have to really have that plan, even though we all need to have a funeral plan. Hello. but the dynamics within the family won't be there. Thea, I think you want to come.
Yeah, I think it starts in terms of families, and you just said because we are, people like to say it's a generational curse and stuff like that with their family. But what people have to realize is you have to take responsibility, and a lot of us don't like taking responsibility for our own actions. We like to point fingers and blame. I remember when I had my first child, I was 16, and I said, the mom said you don't have to stay around. I said I'm not gonna raise my child the same way I was raised. Okay, again.
No, you're here. You're here.
Oh, okay. So I'm not gonna raise my child the same way I was raised. I'm gonna be around. I'm gonna try my best. I don't know what it's like to be a father. I don't know anything really about it, but I'm gonna, trial and error, trial and error. So I have to take responsibility. And a lot of us don't, especially the fathers. We like to run the first time we get an opportunity because it's a bit hard. We don't know, and then we start saying, "Oh, I didn't have my dad around, and that's the reason why." And I don't know what it's like. That's to me, that's just a lot of excuses that we have and we use to justify our behavior and to justify what we do. An excuse is just an excuse. But try, even if you didn't have your dad around, just try. What would you have liked your dad to do? What would you have liked your mom to do? Do that with your children. If you like them to have hugged you, hug your children. It's because remember the children don't know anything. They don't know what a father or mother does because you're the example. So take that's take responsibility. And that's where it starts. Just taking responsibility. Forget what's happened in the past. You can't change it. Yes, your mother didn't treat you right or your father didn't treat you right. I know I'm not going to downplay, you've been molested or whatever, and whatever's happened in the family. You can't change that. It's not gonna go away, but you just don't want that for your child. So you're gonna have to now protect your child so it doesn't happen to your child and leave them exposed to that. So you be aware of it. And if they're speaking to you, just say to yourself, what would I have done? What would I have liked my parent to have done in this situation? When my child speaks to me, would I have liked my parent to hear me or shut me down? They shut me down, so I'm not going to shut my child down. I'm going to listen to them. But we got to do stuff that we didn't like. The things that our parents did that we didn't like, we just don't reenact them. Let's start growing up. We're grown folk. We can't use excuses of 30, 40 years ago as the reason why we're doing something because you wouldn't accept that from your child. When your child says, "Oh, but 5 years ago," you're going to say that's nonsense. That's 5 years ago. But when it comes to us now, we want to hold on to, "Oh, I know my brother got more clothes than me or got more hugs than me. So that's why I don't know how to love." You know how to love. And even if you don't know, get to know. you know, it's like anything. You learn stuff, isn't it? You learn. We learn everything. Everything we've done in life, we've learned it. So
Yeah.
you can learn to be a father. You can learn to be a mother. Learn it. There's books, even if you had to go to a class. I used to teach young fathers, first time dads at children's centers, how to interact with their child, what they can do, messy play, take them to parks, because they don't know. Do these little things around the house, cutting up stuff with the plastic forks, fruits, and make little smoothies and, take them into the park and take pictures and then make them tell a story about the pictures. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, but I learned it because I would have liked that to have happened to me. So it's us taking responsibility. We can't keep using the same excuses 50, 30, 20, how many years ago. We can't use that as an excuse. Not saying the pain's not going to go away, but we can't live in that pain.
Okay. So taking responsibility always comes down to that,
Of course.
Taking responsibility.
That's
And
where everything starts. That's where
it
everything
does.
starts.
It absolutely does. And I think what you said was key in terms of what you wanted as a child. Because even if you don't know, because this is something that, like, many people say, "Oh, it's the mother that did this, that." But I grew up with my dad. I didn't grow up with my mother, right? And when I had that little argument-y kind of thing this morning, I said, "So what, you're going to arrest my mum from the grave?" Because, do you know what I mean? You're being ridiculous. Anyway, so my thing is, you look at this is something that I have personally done. So when you said it, I just started smiling. I looked at how I was raised. I didn't like a lot of things how my dad raised me. And so I raised my children opposite to the things that I didn't like. There were certain things, even to this day, I hear some things I say, and I know that that come from my dad, and I may not even want to admit it, but I am my father's child. I am.
Of course.
Can't run from it. There are things, that he said that rule true today. Show me a friend, I'll show you who you are.
Yeah,
Say
yeah,
that
yeah.
do my head in. But you know, you look at what you didn't like and you tweak it, you change it, and you give your children what you didn't have and what you thought you needed and what you wanted your parent to do. But we know that, you know, Shell said, I get a second chance of being a mother with my grandbaby. I learned from my kids, so now I can be a great grandmother. That is so true. That's lovely. It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful,
And the thing is, Jill, you've learned. That's the thing.
man.
That's the beauty. So the things that happened before, the things that you experience, your granddaughter won't experience it. And this is where earlier on we were saying about education and learning and understanding what what is in our place now, how we deal with those things. And we are going to go back to the inner child because I've got messages here, Glor, about the inner child. Um, Everton Herbert says mental agility was not something that our parents knew or experienced in their young lives, not as we know it.
No,
It might have been a
different.
different type of mental agility.
It would have been different.
It's certainly not, I
No.
agree, not how we know it now. So Dorota is saying you shouldn't let go of the inner child. You should self-parent your inner child. All the support emotions that were mentioned need healing and integrated. Not ignore it. Absolutely right. You don't ignore that because that's what happened to Will Smith. He ignored his child,
He buried it, isn't it?
buried it. And that's what happens. So you have to nurture, you have to parent the inner child. Absolutely 100%. I agree with you totally there. Cecile is our counsellor on the show. And Cecile Terrelong is saying, as you said, Yvonne, unless you know it's the inner child that you need to be working on, then you don't get support. As a counsellor, the percentage of Caribbean clients I see are quite low, increasing, but still quite low. And this is why Cecilia is on here, as a woman of color, a black woman who does counseling. If you need support, she is online now. Please contact her. Yeah, she's very good at what she does. She wouldn't be here if she was not good. She's very, very good. Very, very good. So if you need that support, we have support on the line tonight. And I think that's all right for us to do that, isn't it, Cecile? Okay. So Shell says, I believe some things are too late. I can forgive you and never talk to your nasty ass again. Absolutely. Forgiveness is not about you being brethren with anybody.
No, not at
This
all.
is about you. It's not about the person at all. I see you on fire and I wouldn't spit. I wouldn't spit on you to put you out. No, I'm not no bitter, but better. I've started to accept that with people. It's just the same shit, just a different toilet. I'm working on me. And yeah. So yeah, thank you for that. Shell, you know what? I just love Shell's comments because it just keeps
Don't
it
hold back, man. That's a true Jamaican. They don't hold back. We talk, we
going.
talk, we talk, we talk.
Yeah. But there are people who have been really hurt by their
Of
parents.
course. Yeah.
And what I want to do, and the reasons for having these conversations is we are now the elders, we are the parents now. And sometimes we're still holding on to that stuff, that
Yeah.
junk, and we're offloading it unconsciously to our children who may even be grown up and be resenting you because of the things that you're still holding on to.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to release. We want to release and let that go. You look like you want to come in.
You know what, Yvonne? I've been out and I've met with many women that have been molested and troubled when they were younger, and they've never really dealt with it. So it comes out in in arguments and stuff like that. And then you can realize the argument's not really about the point that we're talking. There's something deeper going on, because that anger that comes behind it is like, whoa, that's deep. So that I know that that destroys relationships, because you haven't dealt with it. One of my exes was like that. She, even though went counseling, couldn't let go of what happened, because it was like such a big part of her DNA that, like, if it went, she wouldn't. I don't think she knew how to deal with that not being there anymore. And I think that's a lot of people, male and female, that they've got this. They've had it for so long that they're scared if it goes away. It's like having a boil in your body, and you're so used to it being there. It's like, how am I going to be without it? And I think that affects relationships as well as you're raising your child, because it's going to come out. Your anger, your frustrations are going to come out. So yeah, we need to actually just really address ourselves, really.
We do. So Simone Dominique says, reparenting ourselves holds an anchor in our transformations. So yeah, I think, and she says, yes, Theo. Yeah. So Tony's saying self-parenting is a recipe for dysfunctional. If you get it wrong, expect disaster. So do you want to jump on this one, Theo? Or
You just go to, you can't self-parent by yourself. You have to go to someone like Cecile to help you. You can't self-parent yourself, because you don't know what you're parenting. So someone with a different mind, fresh eyes looking at your situation. But one thing with counseling, you have to be honest. You have to be prepared to be open and honest, and actually divulge what's real deep inner things, because we're still, I think it comes down to us as Black people, we're not trusted. So if we tell you my business, you gotta tell it to somebody else. So you're not gonna tell you. We're gonna beat around it. But if you're gonna go counseling, be open and honest and let it all out, because you're gonna feel better for it. I did the counseling. I was to be counseling training. I've done all it, and part of doing the training, you have to be counseled yourself.
Right.
And some stuff came out. I remember the first time someone broke down in front of me and started crying about their father. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what to do, because it wasn't even supposed to be like that. It was just meant to be, but she went in and it came out.
Excuse me.
And they came out, but she said thank you after. I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, but it helped her, because now she was able to move on. And I think we need to be open and honest with ourselves and stop thinking that we're okay.
Yeah.
Because we're not.
I think Tony's saying that's not self-parenting, that's living with a teacher or counselor. I'm not quite sure in what that comment was referring to. I don't know if that was referring to what Theo said. I'm not.
I think he's referring to what I just said just now. But that's the only way you can self-parent.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it on your own, because you don't know. As you said, some people don't even know about the inner child, that they're dealing with an inner child.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I could say the inner child, and somebody could be in this chat right here saying, what's she talking about?
Exactly. So you need to go somewhere to someone to open it, explain it, and
if you haven't had therapy, you may not know what the inner child is. Or for me, because I am an NLP master practitioner and a coach and a therapist and all of these, so I had to go through a period of counseling myself in order to do the job that I do, right? So when we're talking about the inner child, it's sometimes when things are not dealt with, the inner child is still crying, is still raging, and it doesn't know what to do, because it's a child, and then it raises its head in situations that you should be doing, or what's the word I'm looking for? That you are in control of that situation. But what happens is that the inner child then starts to have a little tantrum inside, and then you see this behavior and you think, well, why is that person behaving like that? because the inner child is in control. And you have to nurture that inner child and let the inner child know that they're safe and that they're okay, and that you are the adult and you're going to do, and you're going to work with the child, yourself, your inner self, to move forward and heal the brokenness that was left behind with that inner child, basically. So that's, for someone that is looking at self-parenting, right, hold on. Dorota says, for someone who's looking at self-parenting, they must, or most of the time, have the awareness, honesty, and are prepared to take responsibility. So that's why it's always a win. Thank you very much. Thank you. Referring to the terms of what age do you self-parent? Right. Tony, so referring to the term of self-parenting, what age do you self-parent? Hold on.
The rota's answered that.
Yeah. It's not an age thing. No. I think, Tony, it's the word. Maybe it's the wording that you're not quite understanding, but it's not an age thing. Like, oh, I can parent when I'm this age. No. This is something that you evolve into. You learn. Sky says, I do counselling. I'm doing a course in counselling. I love it, but yeah, you see so many people who really need counselling. Absolutely. Another message from Direct says, parenting on your own inner child can be at any age depending on the maturity level. Sky says, when you're ready.
That's right.
I can't see the chat. Sorry, I don't know where you are, Tony.
It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook. Yeah. So, we're talking about the dysfunctional family versus the functional family. And we have been talking about the inner child, the inner child, and how the inner child can play a massive part in how we behave. If we're not aware of it. Sil says, I love it. Love to hear that people know about the inner child and also that they are getting counselling, that we are talking and that we're talking about our feelings. Absolutely. And this is the thing. And I'm glad you mentioned that we are talking about our feelings, because when I was growing up, that wasn't something that you did.
No.
I don't know if anybody else, if you were encouraged to talk about your feelings, can you put a 2 on the chat? A number 2 on the chat. If you were encouraged to talk about your feelings as a young person, as a child, even if you were encouraged, put the number 2 on the chat, please, because I just want to see if we are the same, if we were raised kind of around the same ways. Were you encouraged to talk about your feelings?
What was that? What's feelings?
0, 0, 0.
What was feelings? What's that?
The thing is, when we was being brought up, does anyone care about your feelings?
Feelings? Get over yourself.
Get over yourself. Yeah, Joanne Beach is saying same as. You left another comment. I did see that one. I'm going to go back. There it is. Joanna said, I used to get some serious beatings from my stepmother when I was younger. Took all in all 3 years of counselling, and I'm glad I did it. If I didn't do it, I would never have been able to move on with my life, and for that heavy load to be lifted off my shoulders that I was carrying for years. Thank you for the honesty. Thank you for your honesty.
Thank you as well. Yeah,
thank you very much. Because I think with us, especially, well, I can only talk for the black people because I'm black. I think this is a thing that we shy away from coaching. We shy away from any type of therapy, counselling, speaking therapies. We run away from so much when we can easily heal ourselves.
Have you seen Cheryl's comment? Look for Cheryl's comment. I never really talked about being molested.
Yeah, you read it. You can read it.
Girls, I've never really talked about being molested to a counsellor. I just tell myself it was what it was, and it's not my shame to carry. And I've never trusted anyone that much to open up and go deep. A part of me tell me no one cares.
We care.
Yeah, we care.
We care. We thank you for your openness. I'm telling you, Theo, I know you weren't here last night, but last night was so powerful. It was so, so powerful to just have so many people on and talking about their experiences. I don't know if Carl is still here, but to big Carl up for what he said yesterday. I know that there are a lot of hurting people. There are a lot of people who haven't forgiven their parents, haven't forgiven their caregivers, whoever they are, step parent. And I can hold up my hand. Let me just hold up my hand. Let me go this way. My hand look white in there, didn't it? Oh God. It's the light. But I can say, because I was raised with a step person, and you can see, even to give it a name, and I would never ever refer to her as a stepmother at all. Never. As from the day she was introduced to this very day, because of the way in which I was treated. But you know what? I forgive her. I don't like her, but I forgive her because she treated me that way out of her own jealousy, the jealousy of the relationship that I had with my father. Anyway. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Chell, thank you so much for
Yes, sure. Thank you for that.
for giving, yourself to us, for sharing. It takes a lot. It takes courage. And you might not even feel like, I'm just saying what I'm saying, but it takes courage to actually speak out and say these things. Same with Joanne. Thank you so much for being everybody that's putting their stuff out there and being open and transparent. I want to thank you for doing that. And this is what this is about. This is about us growing. This is about us maturing. And this is about us up leveling. And the only way that we're going to do this is to talk. And this is a safe space. So this isn't like, oh, I did hear so and so. She was on Michelle. She was. No, 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 no. This is about us helping each other and helping ourselves. So Simone Dominic says self-parenting, what she's saying. Self-parenting can be achieved without a mentor, coach, support. It is possible. And when you work alongside someone experienced and qualified in therapies, you can get to your core self-parenting and surrounding areas. The support and guidance can help you bypass a lot of confusion, frustration, and further possible traumas along the way. Being in a place of readiness and openness is paramount, and you begin this process. When you begin this process, for the person to get, as long as the person can get there, but some people can't. Some people are stuck. Some people are stuck and need a therapist, to support them, and mental coach, a therapist, a counselor. To me, they are one of the same things. A lot of the principles are the same, and so my thing is we need to get the help, which leads me to what Joanne says. Black people have too much pride to ask for help. Pride comes before a fall, a haughty spirit before destruction. I believe that. And we have to get rid of the pride. We really, really do. I think Theo's nearly ready to come back in. We do. And I agree. You was a child who was seen when, right. So Scar was saying when she was a child, she was a child who was seen and not heard. Okay. You back now?
Yeah, the family just came in, so
okay. No worries. No worries. Right. So Chel's saying she only knew she had feelings when she came to the UK. Well, yeah. If we just stop there, because that's a big thing to say. I don't know if there's anybody else on here from the Caribbean. Well, you were raised in the Caribbean, Theo.
Yeah, feelings is not something you discuss. Feelings is not. It's not part of your discussion. You just get on and get up with it. You hurt yourself, you cry, keep it moving. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Do you think that and I know this is going to sound really strange, right? But do you think that because we are in the UK, that we are soft or softer, that we don't have as let me quantify the word softer. We don't have as much resilience as those who are from the Caribbean or Africa.
Resilience in terms of like what
Just
terms?
to life itself, because like Michelle was saying, she didn't know about feelings. That wasn't part of the culture. She didn't know about feelings until she came to the UK, and you were saying feelings were not relevant.
Yeah,
So do
because
you think
it's a
that's
different way of life though. Because over there, it's just about getting through that day. So you eat, you tidy, you do your thing. Over here, there's lots more things happening that you have to be involved with. Over there, life's much more simpler. So you didn't
right?
really have much things to really, get emotional about. And my friend didn't talk to me because of this, and okay, there isn't all of that. Well, I don't know about now, but back then it wasn't like that. You just got on with it. So your feelings didn't really, feeling loved or feeling that everybody was in the same boat. Everybody had
Okay.
the same thing. If you made a mistake, you're gonna be corrected. You're gonna get beaten, or you're gonna get told off. And that was pretty much what you did. You did your chores and you went out and played with your friends. And that's life.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you for that.
We didn't spend much we didn't spend much time as a family, if you think about it. We didn't spend much time like you do here, because there is an outside living, here is inside living. So we spend more time with our family here. But there, I was outside most of the time. You only came in to eat and to do your chores and to sleep and to tidy yourself. But that was pretty much all you did. So most of your time, you wasn't really in a family dynamics.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. It was just a question that just came to mind.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
it?
When I'm thinking back,
Case.
When I'm thinking back, I'm trying to remember. I didn't really spend much time with my gran and cousins and that were there. I didn't really spend because we was always outside ramping with your friends, climbing a tree or down the river, ramping in the water or something. But not really. Like the only time we spent together was eating dinner, and that was pretty much it.
And did you eat dinner together, or
Yeah,
was it like
yeah,
one
yeah,
of them?
yeah. No, because dinner served at the same time.
Right.
There is
Okay.
no, there is no static dinner serving.
Okay.
you,
Because
you,
there is a study around the dinner table as to it keeps the family connected, it keeps them united, and families
yeah,
seem to be
yeah,
more functional when they eat together.
yeah. I
There's
think
been a
maybe
study.
looking back, I think yeah, because when I had my cousins around, I'll go to my cousin's house. I think yeah, it was. We sat down, everybody ate dinner, we chat, we laugh, we cuss each other, whatever it may be, and then tidy up and we go back out if there's time to go back outside, and we get back on with our games and all that stuff. But yeah, like we didn't have TV to watch like that.
So
we only had
those
one channel to watch.
those images, and that's a significant thing, I think, in terms of
Mm.
how we are moving forward in terms of life, because a lot of people are addicted to the TV. They're
Social
addicted.
media
They
and all that.
can't not watch their shows, and it's
Yeah.
like it's their sense of reality, and think that that's how life is. So Tony Cox asks, what happened to "it takes a village to raise a child" mentality? The whole village is in therapy.
Depends on the village you're growing up in, Tony. It
I think I
depends on
think
the village.
Tony Cox, you give me jokes, you know. I think in terms of how you're thinking, I think you're overthinking this in terms of the village. It does take, well, we are told that it takes a village to raise a child. We know that when we were growing up, we had lots of aunties and uncles and all of those things, who sometimes are not even our uncles and aunties. And sometimes they were the said ones who were raping the children.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we've got to call a spade here. But not all, but you know, we have to use that term. Well, I use that term quite loosely, to be honest. There's different people who are going to have an impact in your life, in your child's life as they develop. That's the village. And I think that, but we have to admit that we are a broken people. So we do need therapy. We do need to heal. And that's what therapy is. It's not a matter of in therapy and it's like this, oh, I'm in therapy. It's actually going through a process of healing. That's what that is. And I think each and every individual on this planet needs to go through some kind of healing, because you're going to hit something along the way. Life is going to happen to you in some shape or form, and you're going to need to address the things that you go through, because not everything that we go through in life is nice. Not everything is conducive to us or conducive to our mental health. It's not. So I think the statement, I I take your comment very loosely, Tony, but I hope that gives you some kind of thought. You're laughing. What's the joke, Theo?
No, I'm laughing at Cecile. She said, I think my Caribbean parents thought or think their children born here are softer. My dad walked miles over the hills to get to school and told me that quite often. I know the feeling, Daddy. Did the same. And then Cheryl said, I never have a dinner table. I sat on a stone at the back of the house. I did that sometimes as well. Cheryl. We did that sometimes as well. We sat on the graves at the back. We had the graves in the back of the yard, because everyone gets buried on their land, isn't it? In Jamaica, So we used to sit on my great grand's bed and had dinner with them and chat right there, even I didn't even know who they were.
But were you all together on the stone? That's the thing.
Yeah, it was all. Yeah, most probably. I don't know about show, but yeah, we all did together around the stones or outside. But yeah, we always ate together.
Right. Tony says racing doesn't exist in Canada, so that's a massive plus for life there. Racism doesn't exist in the Caribbean, so that's a massive plus for life there. But colorism does exist there. Racism may not, but colorism definitely exists there.
Yeah.
And so it's not all hunky-dory. And this is why we're having these conversations, because it exists here, it exists there, and we have to learn to accept ourselves, take responsibility. But the acceptance is first. I accept the fact that I have this colour skin, and that somebody who's fairer than me doesn't mean to say that they're better or better looking or richer or anything. That's a mentality. But colorism certainly does. Racism, I don't know if that exists. I've not been to Jamaica long enough to say if it exists there or not, but I know that colorism does.
Colorism that exists in the whole black community, even Africa as well. So it's not it's not exclusive to anywhere.
No. And I sorry, I like the comment that Cecile said. Caribbean parents think that we are. I have to agree with that, because my parents made. Not so much my mum, because obviously she passed away, but my dad. There are certain things when you hear the stories of how they used to go down to the river and they used to go and do this and they go do that. The children have it so easy.
Yes.
That was something that was said very often.
Because it's true. It's true. I remember carrying the clothes down to the river to get washed, and then I have to carry it back up. And it wasn't a down the road neither. It's a good 20 minutes, half an hour walk in the blazing hot sun. Yeah, coming back. But you didn't think anything of it because you don't know any different, because everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's
carry on.
Go on.
This is a new comment. Natasha Vidal says, yes, it takes a village to raise a child. People look out for your kids and also able to correct the child if he or she is going wrong. Now, Natasha is in the Caribbean, right?
That's right.
Right. But it's a bit different here.
Yeah.
We were brought up like that because, we took auntie and this person. Yeah. You could do something down the road, and by the time you get home, and we didn't have mobile phones, but by the time you got home, Your
Yes.
parents knew what you was up to. What was you doing what was you doing on Beechwood Road? What was you doing then? You're thinking, well, how do you know that? But
Yeah.
so and so saw.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they brought from the Caribbean. But us now, as parents, I think people are very reluctant to pull up at someone's child and ask them what they're doing. I might be wrong. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You depend on the parent. A lot of the time it's received, oh, if you talk to my child and they want to, they want to get into an argument and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. People used to phone me and tell me my son was outside the chicken shop. So I've be like, yo, you need to come from there, which is cool. But you can't do that with every parent because every parent takes it the wrong way and they've got their own angst and they want to protect their child. And who if you tell my child anything, look, pump for your picnic and rare. And it's like, yeah, I'm looking out for your child, man.
Right. And I'm glad we've got to this point in the conversation because these are the things that make the difference. Because now we're in a culture where we want to just turn our cheek and just not even see. We don't want to get involved. We don't want to see. We don't want to talk to nobody and say, you know what, I saw your son, or your daughter. We see your daughter, I talked to one big man the other day.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to take that information to another person because we're scared of the response that we are going to get. But I think
Yep.
that we need to do things differently, guys, because our children are dying, literally, and our relationships are falling apart, literally, because we don't want to talk to each other. We don't want to communicate with each other, and we don't want to take correction.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the
And
one.
correction doesn't have to be shouting.
No.
It doesn't have to be shouting. You can come and talk to me anytime and just say, you know what, sis, I saw this X, Y, Z, and I'm just looking out for your girl. I'm just looking out for your son. I'd rather you come and tell me that my daughter's hitch up in one corner with one dirty old man than her to come home telling me that the man's taking advantage of her and she's now pregnant. I would rather you come tell me. Because prevention is better than cure, guys.
That's right.
We've seen a lot. There's been so many of us who've been abused. So many of us have been beaten for no reason. So many of us who are in pain till this day because of what happened in the past. And now that's all we're carrying, we're too scared to say anything to anyone else. So what I'm saying is we need to get to a place where we can talk to each other. We need to create a safe space where we can reason with one another and that we can grow and that we can thrive. Because we're not, as a community, we're not thriving. And
No.
it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. Even with the conversation yesterday with the man with the mental health issues that's doing all that he's doing to disrupt my life. When I'm praying and when I'm speaking life. I'm telling my ancestors, God talk to him, make him see sense. Push sense in him head and bring him peace. Because something is troubling his mind. And this is what we're living with, guys. Our mental health, in our community, the numbers of mental health is too high.
And I think that's because we're holding on to too many things.
Yeah.
Can't let go of things.
Yeah.
Child, as you said, the inner child and all the other stuff that's gone on, we just kind of buried it and haven't let it out. So it's gonna manifest itself some way, and it's gonna happen. I think Shell said it something about she never dealt with her feelings or didn't know what to do with her feelings. I think she said it in one of her comments. And she came in, she didn't know what to do with her feelings because she never had the opportunity to express it. Or didn't even know what they were. So if we're not gonna deal with it, we're gonna end up going crazy because we're trying to deal with all that internally, and you can't start talking to ourselves because we need to get it out.
And then you're answering yourself, and then you look as mad.
Yeah. And then by the time you turn around, you're in some asylum somewhere. Rocking.
And a lot of the time, you know what? A lot of the time is as well. All of that, what you said, Theo, but a lot of the time as well is that one incident has happened and they can't get over that one thing.
Yeah.
And they keep talking, go over and over and over and over and over. And it might be a blame. You're blaming somebody for something that's happened in your life, and you just keep going over and over and over and over again. And you become so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Consumed.
Consumed, that's the word. Thank you. You get so consumed with that person or that thing that you can't let it go. And then it overtakes you. It overtakes you.
You know, and a lot of the times that's the thing. One incident's happened with some people and they can't move on, and not realizing that's like a moment in your life. You know, your life's gone much further than that, but you haven't gone past it. So you've
No.
missed out on life.
Yeah.
You know, we're walking through life, doing the moonwalk through life. You know, we're facing the wrong, going the right way, but we're facing the wrong way. So we're missing out on opportunities because we're still looking back
Yeah.
at our past and not turn around and look forward to the future. So we're so busy fixated on our past, not realizing we're getting older. You know, things are happening, but we're not embracing them because we're still fixated on the past. Some of us just need to turn around.
Yeah. It's like the analogy of driving, being in the driving seat and looking in the
Looking in the rear view.
mirror while you're
That's
driving
right.
forward. You can't.
Yeah, you can't. You end up gonna crash and mess up.
You will crash. Okay, so we've got director says, I guess for us as parents is to create a safe space for our children to be open to talk about everything. As a matter of fact, not only for our children, but to members of our family, judgment-free space where people feel safe to be open about talking about things that are hurting them and that are difficult. Absolutely. Boom. That is absolutely what we need to do as parents. And you know, and open up them spaces for our siblings. But I think everybody has to have respect for each other, because I think that sometimes because we feel that we're not heard, we just want to talk over everybody because we have to be heard. Because this is something that I've experienced and I've seen happen. So if we are creating that safe space for children and for adults, we have to know that respect is the minimum, and that's for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's for everybody. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Thank you for that comment, Dorota. Sadie, hello, my darling. How are you? Family life was in most cases functional. Some sat together reading the paper and talked even till past lamp light. They were united, worked together, learnt together, received counselling from pastors and elders. Wasn't such a bad thing either. Mental health wasn't ignored. It was just misunderstood. Wasn't understood fully. Okay, I think it depends, because that's your experience, and no one can't take that from you. And I get that because I came from the environment where counselling was the pastors and all that, and in some cases that was good, but it depends again how balanced that person in leadership was. And the last, but mental health in the church that I went to, there was some real bad mental health, and that was just under the carpet and covered over.
Still is.
And
It
and
is.
and and it still is, to the point where the person, I can't say too much, but I have a stalker, and if you look back in the history, you can see mental health from way back in the church days, and that was never dealt with. So I know that some when you've got a good leader and they are a well balanced leader, then it works. But if you have a leader that is not well balanced, it can cause havoc.
And a lot of the pastors back in the day wasn't well balanced. Gonna just put it out there because they themselves didn't know much. They hadn't lived. You know, they just carried on what they were taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carried
And
on the same
yeah,
rhetoric.
absolutely. Joanna's put a good comment here. We haven't only got to learn to talk, but we have to learn to listen to.
Yeah.
Boom. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've got everyone agreeing with you, Joanne, because it's so true. So true that we really do. And sometimes, there's always that person whose voice has to be heard. I'm not listening to anybody else because they're right. That's not helpful. And I'm sure we've all met that person
Oh yeah.
somewhere in our
Yeah.
life. You know, Tony says religion is a mind warping tool used to control the masses.
Yeah, that's right. That's religion. That's not
But
faith.
yes, not yet. Well, I'll just let you say it. You say it. You say it.
That's religion. But everyone knows religion is a control. That's religion, yes.
Mhm.
Religion is used to a form of control. That's how they control the masses. That's what most religions were based upon, was about control. Yeah.
Mhm. When
That's
you
why
have a faith, you walk
you walk by faith,
by faith and not by sight.
not by
Yeah.
sight, not by man.
Hmm.
Religion is man-made.
Yeah, absolutely. Tina says working on self is paramount. Listen, this show is only supposed to be an hour, right?
Oh yeah.
And we are over. But because of the subject matter and because people are talking, I want to give people the freedom to express themselves. I want to thank everybody that has contributed to the show today. Um, and I hope that you've got something out of it, and I hope that you're able to look at yourself, because really and truly, this isn't about any one of us looking at each other. It is about looking at self, right? Faith. Hold on, let me do this one. Someone said faith works, relationship. Yes. Oh, hold on. Oh, we're getting mixed up here. Can I also say how significant and important platforms like yours, Yvonne, is to get these conversations going and allow people to speak their truth? So thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, Sadie. Thank you so much. Because it is important. It really is important to me that people get a chance to speak their truth. This is why I do what I do. And so, I'm very grateful to everybody that's on this platform. And I want to say that this platform is there for this. This is our platform. This is there for us. We started this in lockdown, and we are still here. And so I want to give everybody an opportunity. I really want us to come together and do this and learn and grow. We've got some fantastic people on this platform who are counselors, who are therapists, who are coaches, who do all different types. We've got pastors on here. We've got all different people on here, singers. We've got motivational speakers. We've got so many different types of people on here. We've got actresses. We've got loads of different people here. And I want us to really connect so that we can build each other, that our lives, we've got teachers on here, mentors on here, that we can build each other up and become a really strong unit. Because, I don't know about you guys, but, I can do a lot of things on my own, but I can do 10 times more when there's more around, when there's people around me that have the same mindset and want to move forward. And that's all really that I want to do, is I want us to grow. I want us to grow and thrive. I'm tired of seeing our people behind. It's time. It's our time. We are magnificent. We are gifted. But there are some things that we need to deal with within ourselves before we can really take that step forward together in unity. And I want us, I don't want this jealousy. Oh, she's doing it. Oh, she's and she's full of herself. But if she's not full of herself, who's she going to be full of? You?
I like that.
Yeah. If the whole statement, it doesn't make sense. Full of herself. Who's she supposed to be full of? You? No, she's supposed to be full of herself because she is herself. He is himself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I want us to be ourselves authentically. Take off the mask, just like I did last night. I took off the mask and I told you guys exactly what was going on in my life. And it's not great. It's not great at all. But you guys were here. Yeah? Someone said self-full. Yes, self-full. Who else? What else is? Oh dear. So I want to thank you guys. I'm gonna we can go on for another 5-10 minutes because I want to give you guys a chance. If you have any questions or you want to say something, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to do it. If you have any questions at all, yeah. So Tina is saying there is so much beauty within our DNA. There's some real good stuff in our DNA, and there's some real painful stuff. And it's time for us to uproot that and then replace it with a new feeling so that we can move on. Because we got to remember that when we're dealing with stuff, and I'm just going to say it's when we're dealing with stuff, especially trauma, when we are looking at it and we're healing and that's been removed from us, we also have to put something in place. We can't leave that space empty. We can't leave that space empty at all. So Tony's saying respect. That's the minimum. Yes. I don't know who this question is for. Where's your new man? I don't know if you're talking to somebody on the chat or you're talking to me. I don't know. Joanna says, Joanne. I keep calling you Joanna, and I know your name's Joanne, but I don't know why we call you Joanna. But Joanne says, thank you, one took my mind. Listen, my darling, we are here for you. I'm here for you. You can always message me, always. And I will always be willing to talk to you, my darling. I remember you from here. I remember you from back in the day. Yes.
There was a comment from Shell earlier. She says, I believe leaving our children behind in pursuit of a better life has contributed to a lot of what's going on in our Black community. She says, I left my son when he was 4 and didn't see him again until he was 16, but that's another story.
Oh, that is another story. That's a whole show by itself.
That's a big one as well.
Do you want to do that? Because there's a lot of people. There's a lot.
That happen a lot.
And I remember when I was doing the Windrush book. Because guys, there's a Windrush book called The Journey Beyond Windrush. You know, that I published for the Windrush community. That was in 2020, and there were some stories of children leaving siblings. So some were able to come here and some had to stay back. And the divide it caused in the family and how they disliked the ones that were over here. The ones over there didn't like the ones over here. The ones over here didn't remember the ones over there. And the feelings that they had for each other, that was a distortion and a disruption to the family. You know, and this is why this show is happening, because the family is under attack. It's another big topic. So we would like to do that. Shell, if you'd like to come on, and maybe if there's anybody else that would like to come on and have a conversation about that, you know.
It's all coming up now.
Different. It's all coming out. Yeah, look, my mum.
Yeah, my uncle and my brother and my this.
It's all coming out. So this is next week's topic, guys. We'll do it next week. This is the topic because it is. Look at that, Sheena's. Look at all these. Look, I'm looking at the thing and forgetting to click on it. Right. So let me just go here. Sheena says, I don't have a relationship with my daughter. Very long story. We're going to touch mother and daughter. That was in my head. Why mother and daughters don't get? Why father and sons? Why do we not get on with our parents? You know, even still.
Tina's put one up.
Another big topic. Tina is saying, yes, that happened with my biological father and my uncle. Okay. We want to hear the story.
And Joanne's put one up as well.
Said, my mum left my sister aged 2 months. Over 55 years later, she never returned or even inquired about her child. Sad. Wow.
That's deep.
That is deep. That is deep. And how that affects the family, much less your sister. And that was 55 years ago.
Wow.
Wow. That's wow. Sorry, I can only say wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. So I think Shelley's saying she'll come back. She'll come on next week. I think that's what that love heart means. And if there is any of you that want to share a story, and if there is a topic that you really want to talk about, don't be afraid to message me. Message me and we will make it happen. Especially right now as we're doing this series on the family, because this is what we're talking about right now, is the family and how we turn from dysfunction to function. Because we can make it happen.
Of course we can.
Yeah, we can make it happen. Swear says this is deep wounding. Yeah.
I think a lot of what happens in the family also spills into our relationships, isn't it? Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Because
And
we
that's,
are bringing our baggage from our family into
yes.
our relationships. As much as we bring in old relationships into it, we also bring in our family hurts and our own deep-rooted things that we've buried. They're gonna come out because you're in another family dynamics now, your own family dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're gonna function how you're gonna function, how you function in your family. So if you're full of anger, you're gonna have lots of anger in your family because we still have to work on ourselves. So yeah, so it's a lot. It's a big subject, man. Big
It
subject.
is. So we're talking next week about the ones who are left behind. Got some more. She's sending hugs. Shell's not giving me an answer.
No, she's replying to the messages. So that hugs us for Sheena,
Okay.
and the love hearts was for Joanne.
Okay.
Yeah, she's sending love hearts to them.
Yeah. So we're sending much love. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Samantha Oliver. Hello, darling. Saying she's so proud. Necessary, great necessary subject, which has always been taboo. And that's what we want to do. We want to talk about the conversations that make us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's necessary. It's time. We need to grow. We
you
need
have
to
to grow up.
evolve. We need to thrive. Life is very, very short. And my wish for every single one of you on this platform is that you live a life that is wildly what you dreamed about as a child. It's the best life that you could ever have. But that means looking into yourself. That's what it means. You should do one on secret siblings you didn't know about.
Woo!
Thank you, Carl. Secret siblings.
Oh God.
Siblings left behind. Is that what I said we're doing next week, isn't it?
Yeah, but they can intertwine that one because some people didn't even know they had siblings abroad because they weren't. Someone said they were mentioned 55 years later. The mom still hasn't inquired about them. So, wow.
Yeah. Listen. Shell say she's never talked about it. Damn, I don't know what state I'll be in. Listen, whatever state you're in is whatever state you're in. We are here to support. We're not here to tear you down.
Tina said she's got 9, and she goes, "No, I have about 9 of them."
Ooh, okay. Are you guys ready to come on and talk about this? How it feels and how it's affected your family dynamic? How many children do you have? Did that stop you from having more children? Do you know what I mean? These are the questions that we need to ask. How did it? Secret siblings. Lord of God. Yes.
That would be.
But you think about it, because when I did that book and I listened to these are stories that people have written, and they've said, I've left my siblings, I left 4 siblings home with the intention that my parents would send for them, and some never did. Some never did. I have a cousin. I didn't even know I had a cousin that was in Jamaica.
Wow.
From an aunt, and I know all of the children, aunt and uncle. I didn't know that I had a cousin over there, and I never really knew him, and he died over there. He was the eldest.
Yeah.
No, so you've got family members that you don't even know. So thank you for that. You should do one. So next week we're doing secrets left, siblings left behind. You know, come and listen, come along and talk and give your input. If you've got something to say, you know, you are more than welcome to come and talk your truth on this platform. We should call this show the Naked Truth, isn't it? You know, so I think, wow. I'm just saying. Carl says, I found out I had two older brothers at 37 when my father died. Yeah. Are you ready to come on, Carl?
Yeah, come on, talk about that. That's.
Are you ready? Because these are the things that impact us, and we don't get to talk about it. We just, what do? We get the carpet, we sweep it under, we close it back, and we get on with life. And in the meantime, it's eating us out.
Mm.
And we're angry, and we don't even know why.
Yeah.
But all of these things are going on in the head, in the mind, around us. All of these thoughts and these feelings that we've had and been carrying for years. So I'm inviting you. So if you would like to come on, I'm inviting you to come on this show next week. I'm not even doing the show that we was going to do this week next week because I think this is more important.
Yeah.
That subject can always stay. Okay, that's fine. So Carl's saying I'll try to come on, but I'll be looking after my 8-year-old son next week. Well, that's fine. That's fine. You can come and stay as long as you like, and then, you know, you can go when you're ready. Definitely we'll be locked in next week. Stay blessed, beautiful people. Good night. Thank you, Joanne, for being here, and I will see you soon. Stay in touch, my darling. And Shell is saying, I blame slavery for all this mess. First we were taken by ships, then we came by planes. So I blame slavery, abandonment issues. Yeah, there's a lot of that in there. There's a lot of that in there. Like a lot of that in there. So I agree with you, but we have to deal with now. And then once we deal with ourselves, then we can look at that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at that, but I'm saying let's focus on us. Let's do the work.
That's long gone. We can't keep.
We can't change that. We can't change what's happened. But once we heal ourselves, then we can look back and then we can begin to change certain things more about ourselves. But we need to be in a place where we can start with ourselves.
Did you see what Jerry put there?
Jerry says, why do parents keep it secret? It always comes out in the end. Doesn't it just? But by the time it comes out, so I think they're hoping, some parents are hoping that they will have passed away. By the time it come up, maybe long gone. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, you know, I don't know why. And sometimes, listen.
Shame, I think it's shame.
It's shame, of course.
Some of it's shame. When it's gone past a certain period of time, like after 10 years, it's shame to say, oh, I left your brother back home and stuff like that. There's shame. They've moved on. Yeah, embarrassment and shame, especially some of them who are Christians.
Yeah.
The embarrassment, the shame. They left me, picked me back home, and nobody knew about them. And yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, and that's it. And you know, they leave the children and them gone, and they never. And some of our parents, not my parents, but some of the parents, left Jamaica, went back in the early days, and then just stopped going back. Never went back. Never went back, and those children were left. I don't know what it would feel like. And as Tasha says, wonderful program, Yvonne and gentlemen. This is Theo. This is Theo. God bless you both. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your input. That's Dominica here on the chat tonight.
Yes. Okay.
Dominica here. You know, some of those old people were just pure heartless.
That too.
That too. And Simone says, yes, fear, shame, and guilt. Right. So we know that we need to take responsibility. We know that it is up to us. We know that we are part of this brilliant village. And if we help ourselves first, then we can help others. And I just pray, that's my prayer this week, that we can, really give to each other. The last comment I'm going to read out, I said, my father left when I was 13 years old. So now I've never seen the man again. Wow.
That's sad.
So it's very sad. And so you can see there's lots of hurts here. There's lots of pain here.
Yeah.
And so we're going to unpick this and we're going to work through this with you next week. All right. Between the hours of 9 and 11. We might as well just, it is what it is.
1 hour. 1 hour is not going to be
enough. It's not enough for us to discuss, but 2 hours is just enough. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Every single one of you. We'll be back here next week at 9 o'clock. Next week, Tuesday, which is the 19th of April. We'll be back here. And for those of you who don't know, this is now on podcast. So you'll be able to find this on Spotify and iTunes. And yes,
big things, Yvonne, big things.
Yeah, man, we needed to step it up. So it's now on podcast as well. So you can go back and listen to it. And we are going to continue to rise and to thrive and to be bigger and bolder than ever before. So again, thank you. And tomorrow, if there is anybody who would like to do what I do here, you want to run a chat show, right? You want to speak online or on virtual platforms. I'm running a free workshop tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Yeah. If the link is on my Facebook page, if you would like to join me, do so. 2 o'clock tomorrow. It's about an hour and a half. It's a free training. So if you want to learn how to speak with confidence, join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. But for now, ciao.
Ciao, people.
Thank you, Theo.
Welcome. God bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you, everybody. God bless.
We'll just do this, and then you're going to see. Oh, you're back on it. Okay. All right. So, good night, everybody. And
good night. God bless you all.
I need to find the thing to come out. Hold on. Here we go. We're still here, still fighting. All right, guys. See you later. See ya.